Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2 Super Mini Mail Call. This package comes from Sean in Woodbridge, Virginia. Hi to all my Virginia viewers. Ooh, it looks like we have a computer and a little package. Looks like we have an Amiga 500. Pretty sure that's what this is. The case is a little popped apart. That could have come from shipping actually, although no, I don't think so. It looks like there was no screws in here at some point. Let's see what's in the little package here. There was no note, so maybe it's hiding out in here. Looks like we have a couple adapters for, look, it's a Terrible Fire. Is this a Terrible Fire? Yes, I think this is a Terrible Fire accelerator. And, the pins are pretty gnarly under there. Basically, this adapter here allows it to, I'm not sure if this is designed like to go in this machine or what, but this is a 68,000 right angle adapter, so you would plug it into the CPU socket, turns it 90 degrees, and then this here is what, like a 68040, and it's got fast RAM on here, and this is like, maybe it's an open source accelerator. I haven't really followed the story behind the Terrible Fire stuff. So Terrible Fire TF536 50 megahertz 030. Oh, it's a 68030 here at 40 megahertz. So 50 megahertz 030 plus SD RAM, so like 128 megs or 64 megs or something like that. But obviously this is gonna need a little bit of repair because, well, that row is no problem because this one I could just peel this one off. But this one has got a couple bent pins there, and unfortunately with these types of pins is they snap off as soon as you try to fix them. Let's just do that right here and see if this thing can survive. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I can try to fix this by replacing the strip. Okay, that one's fine. And there's just one more bent one. Okay, you know what? I think it's okay. Yeah, actually, I think that should do it. Now, I don't remember if this works. I'm gonna have to go find the email from Eric to see what the deal is. Now, this adapter here, on the other hand, well, it's seen better days. It has seen better days. Of course, it's totally fixable, but there it is, 68,000 relocator. There's a GitHub URL. This is an open source project. It's a passive device, as you can see. It just moves that accelerator around. All right, as I said, I don't remember what the deal is with this Amiga. There is here the little side door cover. Let's flip this onto its underside. Looks like their trap door is held on by tape. Let's peel that tape off. Oh, I see why it was held on by tape. The little tab is broken, so that wasn't being held on any longer. All right, so this is the RAM expansion card, and what happens in these, I don't know if this is actually an Amiga branded one, but I'm assuming it's Commodore because it's got all this tape on here. So hopefully someone has gone and removed the battery. Let's look with our own eyes because the NiCad battery in here leaks, destroys the PCB in here, and then often it can actually leak onto the motherboard here, like capillary action, transmits that horrible alkaline material. This tape is, I'm just gonna have to cut this. All right, tape is off. This should pull apart now. Essentially, you don't really need this actual RF shielding that's on here, and it is a bit of a pain. Yeah, someone's been in here for sure. The little tabs are replaced. Look at that, 2032 battery, and you know what? Oh, if there was ever leakage in here, it was extremely minimal in this A501. Barely anything. Oh, cool. It's actually a little PCB, and I bet you there's a little diode on there. There is. I can see the diode under there and a holder. I normally just solder that on. I put a diode and a battery holder, and I just hot glue it on there, and it all just looks really terrible. Anyways, that's the 512 512K expander. You don't need the case anymore. It's fine just like that. In fact, a lot of third-party ones were in here just like this. There was no metal case or anything on them. This was strictly a Commodore thing. Well, I was just looking through my channel email for an email from Seth to figure out what the deal was with this machine because I know we communicated, but I couldn't find anything in my Gmail there. The problem is this might have been one of my patrons, and we might have communicated via the messaging system inside Patreon, and it's terrible. As a creator, I have no way to search for content, and there's a lot of messages in there, unfortunately. And what can happen is This was several months ago we probably talked about this, and I'm now just opening it now. I've actually had this for a little while, and now I can't find the original message. So if anyone's donating stuff to the channel or whatever, if you do ship something and you don't want to put a note in there, even if you just print out like the email or however we communicated and throw it in there, just to jog my memory, because otherwise I'll forget like I did here, and now I don't even remember the details. Like I don't know if this machine's broken or the accelerator's broken or what. Looks like there are no screws on the bottom of the computer. So really what's holding this together are just the little clips. And there it is, it just lifts right off. You know what, it's in really good shape. There wasn't very much packing material in there. And the computer survived without any issue. Did this break? I don't think this even broke. This looks like it's, no, this is fine too. This is the cover for the side there. All right, so that's an Amiga 500 on the inside. The keyboard has the membrane type here. I'm not sure if there's like two different types of keyboards on these, but it does connect here with a ribbon, or not ribbon, you know, an actual wire, but you can see that the keyboard membrane is right there. So that can be problematic. I think these membranes are pretty reliable, but it can be a problem nonetheless if you have missing keys. I think it's not like key switches you could just clean. There is the inside of the machine. There's the RAM expansion, which I put on incorrectly. Whoops, good thing I didn't power this up. It's off by 1 pin. There it is, the inside of the 500. And actually, this is one of the later ones because it actually has provisions for 1 megs of RAM right on the motherboard. I mean, they just left empty sockets there, but if we take this memory card here, see it's got 4 RAM chips there. Those 4 chips could go right on the motherboard, and then you wouldn't even need this. This does add the clock though, so if you care about the clock, that helps. Looks like this actually has a Kickstart 314 chip in here, and there's like a serial number or a product key or whatever on there. So I'm just covering that up with a sticker there. Let's throw a CPU in this thing and see if this computer just boots up, because maybe it's working like this without the accelerator in here. For CPU, let's try this, which is a Motorola 6810. Look at this purple ceramic package with the gold. Isn't that beautiful? Now, this was in an Amiga 2000 that had a lot of corrosion. I actually have no idea if this chip works, but this is as good a machine as any to try it. And yes, if you wonder, using this chip gives you a little bit of a performance boost over the regular 68,000 at the same clock speed. And it's generally compatible. I think there may be some issues where the 6810 has some differences, I suppose. And I don't remember what they are, and they might cause some issues, but generally I've found that it's a nice, like, small speed bump for your Amiga, decent little upgrade. Of course, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna deoxit the socket. Oh, just before I put that in, I noticed there's like a strip of pins in here. Let's pull this out. I assume this was for the spacing on the accelerator. So that's one of these pin strips, whatever it is. I was about to deoxit the socket. As I do, this board, or the whole machine, is in very nice condition. It's very, very clean. So I'm not anticipating any kind of issues here. Unless, of course, there's a fault, and then we'll do a repair, but not in this video. We're just testing things out. Wow, that went into this, that CPU socket is extremely loose. So the chip is in the socket, but watch this. I can just lift it out with my hand. Those pins are extremely spread out on the socket, that is, the hole. So that right there may be a big problem with whatever instability this machine might have been having. I'm assuming that there was a problem on this machine. Now, it had the pin strip that was in there, this one I just took out, was the round pins, so the right kind to go in something like this. But on the other hand, clearly someone had put something in there that was not that kind, because I shouldn't be able to just use my fingers to pull the CPU out of the socket. For a power supply, I have this here. This is an Amiga 500, 600, and 1200 power supply, one of these sort of modern creations given to me by David. So thank you very much if you were watching, David. I really enjoy how much less bulky this power supply is than the regular one that's on the Amiga. The regular one is so bulky and annoying to use. All right, I have it hooked up to the open source scan converter here. Let's turn it on. See what we got. No signal, that's normal for the Elgato. Oh, look at that. Okay, so we do have a fault. I'm pretty sure, well, I mean, of course, the CPU, well, CPU's running. This is a Kickstart thing, so it's doing some diagnostics. Pretty sure that the green screen means that I think there's some problem with the RAM. This onboard RAM here on the motherboard will need some fixing. So this is gonna be a repair video, obviously, that we can get this machine working. But I'm gonna try one thing. I'm just gonna push down on the CPU here in the socket. Let's turn that on again, because it could be just making really bad contact. Yeah, okay. That's what we're getting. Why don't we try out a diagnostic ROM? You know what? I was not gonna make this a repair video, but let's just quickly swap out this ROM and we'll pop into diagnostic. And let's see what happens, because I happen to have a diagnostic ROM, which should be pretty good. And this was a recommendation from a viewer. This is not the normal Amiga one that everyone uses. This is the Logica ROM. Now, I don't know the details on this. I don't think I've ever shown it on a video, but I have definitely tried it out, and it does work. Obviously, I have this in an EPROM that I have burned. This is an alternative diagnostic ROM to the regular Amiga test kit one. Not test kit, the one that everyone uses. Okay, here we go. So we're getting some patterns and thingamajiggies and flashies, and I don't know if this is gonna even work because we have bad RAM clearly. And maybe that's what it's telling me right now with this flashing. Kind of like the Commodore 64 dead test. Maybe it's telling us like what bit is bad or something. And like the other test ROM, you hook up a serial port and then you can actually see on the serial port like what's going on. So, okay, I think that's gonna be it for this test. I'm gonna button this thing back up and then this will be a future repair. Yes, and then also I can try to get that accelerator working. That's pretty cool. I love these modern accelerators that people are coming up with now, because for a long time, everything was very expensive because all we had was like the original old school period correct accelerators that went in these things, which would have worked in a similar way, you know, plug-in modules. Oh, and incidentally, by the way, I think this relocator is necessary because of the fact that when the keyboard is there, I'm gonna turn this off so no one has to look at that flashing anymore. When the keyboard is placed into the computer, it's very low profile. And if we tried to put this right here, it would actually hit the bottom of the keyboard. So with this, it goes here like that. And then you can put, I think, well, I don't know. You know, like I think it might go like that, for instance. And this part of the case, once the RF shield's removed, because obviously there was no RF shield on here, there's a lot more space inside here. And I'm also thinking, by the way, on this, that this is an IDE port. So it's like the same one on the 600 and 1200. It's very high density little pins. That's pretty cool, because otherwise, to get this thing booting off a hard drive, you got to plug in like a side thing here, and it's a pain. There's no internal IDE interface like there is on the 600. So with this accelerator in there and this relocator, that thing gives this thing massive speed with this 50 megahertz accelerator, lots of RAM. But this RAM is still necessary, by the way. You might be wondering why, if this has RAM, then what does it matter for this onboard RAM if it's bad? It's because this is chip memory. And on an Amiga, if you're not familiar with the difference between chip memory and slow memory and fast memory, the gist is that the Amiga custom chipset, it needs its own memory that it talks to directly. The Agnes chip is actually what's talking directly to this memory. And so for all the screen stuff, like the blitter and the copper and all the things that are happening on the screen, the custom chips need to talk to their own memory directly. And it's literally, the RAM is not hooked up to the data bus directly. It's going through the Agnes chip because it needs that direct communication. Chip memory is slow though, because when the CPU needs to talk to it, to say run a program, it has to wait for the graphics subsystem or whatever's, you know, using it, the sound and all the custom chips to be done, and then it can access it. So it's very slow for running software. So generally, if you have fast memory, which would be the RAM that's on this accelerator, or, well, if you have this card in here, this memory typically becomes slow memory. So it's still not chip memory, but it's still accessed through the Agnes. So the overall RAM on this computer, it's just pretty slow altogether. But you could plug a RAM expansion into the side here, which is a processor direct slot. Talks directly to CPU. CPU can go directly to it. It's not waiting on the custom chips to be done before it can access it. So this adds a bunch of memory. I don't know how much, but the CPU on here, which when you plug this in, by the way, this CPU is removed. So this is the only CPU on the computer. It talks directly to that memory, super fast, 32 bits, but for graphics and stuff and sound, it still needs to run in the chip memory here on the motherboard. So that has to work for an Amiga to work at all. You can't just take that memory out and have no RAM on the motherboard. It's gotta be there. At least, you know, I think all the Amigas work the same way. They need the chip memory. It can be 512K, it can be 1 meg, it can be up to 2 megs on certain of these older ECS type machines. And then the newer Amiga 4000, Amiga 1200, I think it's like 2 megs, but they can go up to 8 megs of chip memory, I think, because they have higher colors and stuff like that. So there's more RAM available there. But yeah, as is pretty common with these, I'm not gonna say for sure it's bad RAM, but it's probably gonna be bad RAM. These are Fujitsu chips. I know I've done a repair on Amiga 500 before, and it was these chips here. So this will definitely be a future repair. So let me close this computer up and put it back together and put some foam on here to preserve those pins, and yeah, kind of cool. It's definitely my first time ever actually using any accelerator for an Amiga 500, including the Terrible Fire, so that's pretty sweet. All right, I put it back together. I found some screws that seem to work in it. I don't think they're the perfect ones, but they went in easily enough and they're gonna hold it together. So time for a note. Grab a marker here. So this is Sean, and let's say green flash. Bad RAM with a question mark. Alrighty, so there it is, the diagnosis for a future repair video. I don't do a lot of Amigas. You know, they're very reliable, that's why. Amigas are just reliable computers. They're not like the 64, where they're always having issues. So really, all that's wrong with this thing cosmetically is this door. I just put a little tape on there. I put the little side PDS door back on, that works fine. And this computer looks good. I mean, hopefully the keyboard works. We'll figure that out in the future repair video. And of course, like I said, I'm gonna put some foam on here and we will look at these as well and see if those work. So thank you very much, Sean, for sending in this Amiga 500 and the Terrible Fire accelerator. Alrighty, here's another package. This one comes from Mike in Ottawa, Ontario. Hi to all my viewers in Canada. Every time I get something from Canada, I always wonder if there's gonna be goodies in here from Canada, and it looks like there are. There's some Smarties here. I'm opening the box upside down. Sorry about that, Mike. If you planned it that I would open it a specific way. We have a note, and there is a Sega cartridge for a Sega Master System, I'm assuming. I've never had a Sega Master System in my entire life. I'm not sure I've even played on one. I mean, I think I have like at maybe Portland Retro Gaming Expo I played a little bit, but I never had a friend with one. I never played on one. So yeah, we have 4 boxes of Smarties. There's a note, and there's something in this bag here. Oh, this might actually be a Sega. Oh, looks like it is. Look at that, a Sega Master System, power base. Ooh, reset, pause, game input. So this took like flat cards as well, and cartridges, regular controllers. We got power button, AV output, RF. Looks like some kind of AC adapter, unknown what that might be. Looks like we have a model 3010. I don't know if there's like various models or revisions of this like there were with other consoles. North American version though, obviously. And we have DC 9 volts, 850 milliamps. And it looks like right here, there's like a battery door or something. What's this all about? Okay, we have like a breakout there. So obviously I could see an edge connector. So this is probably for some expansion that they maybe never used. Now what I don't have is a controller for this. And I don't know if it's, like I know it's not regular. I mean, it looks like a 9-pin, like an Atari or, you know, Commodore 64 or whatnot. But this has more than one button. It's like the NES, so it's got like 2 buttons, I think, start and select, and up, down, left, right, a D-pad. You know, I should check out the note. Maybe the note will explain all. All right, so yeah, this is from Mike at the Retro Show. He sent in some Atari stuff in the past. So hi Adrian, I came across this console on one of my trips to Toronto. My brother is a reseller of retro games, and this poor hardware was just on the ground. I'm thinking that the D got rubbed off or something there, just on the ground. Was informed it was not working, so I thought it'd be perfect for your channel for a repair video. I don't have an extra power adapter nor controller, however I did include a game for testing. Keep up the great content, Mike. Yeah, I'll put a link to Mike's channel. He has There it is right there. If you want to check it out yourself, youtube.com/user/thenewretroshow, homebrew games and stuff like that. I know for these, well, I seem to recall for the Master System that when you turn it on and you don't have a cartridge, you actually get like some kind of built-in game. But that I am not totally sure about. So game only. Great baseball. Definitely not a fan of sports games. Maybe this thing just has like normal ROM chips in there and we can load a different ROM on there. I don't know if there's like mappers. I don't really know much about this system whatsoever. When it comes to game consoles, I have a Mister. It's like the FPGA emulation system, sort of emulates everything. And the Mister allows me to have all the games. Wow, look at this. There's the whole PCB in there. And there it is, some kind of a mask ROM chip from 1987. I have no idea if this is like EPROM compatible, if I can just swap that out with like a standard EPROM that I make so we can put a better game in here. Anyways, like I was saying, the Mister allows me to sort of play everything I need to play. If I want to get a fix of, you know, a console like this that I don't have, well, of course the games are all on there. It's very easy. So yeah, that's my outlet for old retro games. I think the thing about computers is it's like really easy to move software around. You know, they're files. We could put them on SD cards. We could do stuff like that. Obviously, you need fancy EverDrive kind of things for these to play homebrew things, stuff like that, or make ROM chips if that is compatible. Why don't we give this thing a quick test? Although AV out, that's annoying that it's like a little DIN connector there, and I don't even have that. There is RF out, so I suppose I could just grab the little TV. We could give it a try. First thing I need to figure out though is what's the deal with the input? Is it center negative or center positive? A quick look to a power supply for it on eBay, and it is center negative. How freaking rude. Honestly, that sucks. All right, I have the bench supply right here, and it's outputting 9 volts, and I have it clipped on, so it is center negative. I did verify that with the multimeter. Plug that in there. See if we even at least get the power LED on here when I turn it on. Power. No, we don't even get that. We're not even getting any actual current draw at all. Oh, you know what? It could just be not fitting in there. I think that's the problem. Yeah, okay, let's just quickly pull the cover off of this thing. Now, I think inside this thing is a Z80 processor, I think. And it's got sort of like NES type graphics and sound and capabilities are like that are pretty similar. You know, it's in that same era. I'm not gonna talk about generations or any of that kind of stuff. I think this came out after the NES did. NES was released in Japan as the Famicom family computer in 1983. And I think this is slightly later. But yeah, Z80 processor, I think there was an earlier Sega 8-bit system called the, what was that called? SC100 or something like that. It was also 8-bit. It used the same graphics chip as the TI-99, the TMS something or other, and ColecoVision as well, and other consoles. In fact, I think the ColecoVision and that Sega were nearly the same thing. I don't even know if that Sega was sold in the US or not, but let's see, there we go. Okay, top cover is off. Let's make sure the screw doesn't go away. There it is, RF shielding. Let's pull this out. I'd say that no one has ever been inside of this thing because it feels like the screws are pretty well clicky when you unscrew them to make the click feeling. All right, there's the top of the RF shield. So what's going on here is we have a voltage regulator. This is like a heatsink here. So that is definitely something, because at 9 volts, right? Obviously this thing's gonna run on 5 volts. I have to wonder why they're even using 9 volts, but maybe there's like the video output circuitry or whatever. These are interesting, like some kind of metal contacts, switches here. So that's obviously, oh, those are just the buttons. Okay, so we have the reset button and what's the other one? Reset and pause. Okay, so pause is not on the controller. It is on the, it's on the console itself. All right, so we have NEC chips in here. Indeed, there's like a cartridge slot, a little flat cartridge slot here. 1986, Sega, made in Japan. We have an NEC 780C. I'm pretty sure that's the Z80, the NEC version of the Z80 right there. Sony IC here. NEC there. I don't know, some of this might be like SRAM, something like that. A Sega custom chip, more Sega chips. RF modulator is under here, and like I said, this is gonna have a voltage regulator on it, and it does indeed. I can see it there. I'm guessing the voltage regulator has died. Maybe someone put way too much voltage into this thing, and that is the problem. So I think in order to not make this a repair video on the Super Mini mail call, I'm gonna leave this for a separate repair. And in the meantime, I'm probably gonna try to see if I can find myself a controller at least, and I can make a DIN cable for the video out, but it would be nice to at least be able to see this game on something other than a TV, like a capture here or whatever. I could use the RF out for testing, but yeah, so yeah, okay, cool. A little bit of a Genesis repair, or not Genesis, a Master System repair. I'm gonna leave this thing taken apart, so I'm just gonna throw all these screws into here, into a little bag, so they don't get lost, because I have done that many times where I put them in a little container, put them aside and think, okay, I'll remember what they are or whatever, but no. So the easiest thing I find is to just put them in a bag. I have a lot of these. I bought a whole bunch of them from China, and I'm just gonna tape it inside the console right here onto the heatsink. So it is not possible to lose those. And I'm just gonna leave this cartridge in here, so I can't misplace that because I only have the one. So there it is, a Sega Master System future repair video. I was always a Nintendo person. I had an NES when I was a kid. That's what I played on. All my friends had it as well. So that's why I had never had any experience with this. And the games that were on this, they just didn't seem to compete with the Nintendo stuff, at least in my eyes. I think because this is slightly newer, it's got slightly more capable, it is slightly more capable than the NES, slightly. And specifically because it's got like the more color palette, that's a wider color palette, stuff like that. But where Nintendo was brilliant is the whole mapper situation, which basically extend the capability of the original NES far beyond what it was originally designed to do. And I don't know if this thing has the equivalent of mappers. Maybe it does, but I'm not sure the mappers in this allow all those technical crazy capabilities that give the NES extra capabilities like scan line interrupts and stuff like that, which it didn't have in the original hardware, in those mappers. And I think that's what allowed the NES, even though it's older, to push back past capabilities of this Master System. So anyhow, all right, Mike, thank you very much for sending that in. Oh, and the Smarties as well. I will enjoy those. And yeah, we'll see this in a future video. Alrighty, one more package here. And this one, where does this come from? This one comes from Tim in Port Orchard, Washington. So Washington, of course, is one state up from here in Oregon. So hi to all my Washington State viewers. All right, I think I know what this is. Whoops, I just dropped the little knife thing. I think this is a little television set. He told me that this was coming. And yes, indeed, this looks very similar. This is a JCPenney TV. This looks very similar to that Panasonic one I had on this show. You know what? This has got to be made by Panasonic. It has to be. It's way too similar looking. Oh, that's too bad. This antenna here got bent and broken there. This is way, way too similar to the Panasonic one. Let's see, JCPenney solid state TV, model number 6851032, made in Japan. Yeah, by Panasonic. I can guarantee you, just the way this thing looks, like the plastic molding is so similar. And then we'll have, yeah, this is the battery compartment. Let's take a look in here. Okay, there we go, nothing in here. Huh, it even says Panasonic right here. You should use Panasonic D-size batteries. Yeah, because this thing was made by Panasonic and just rebranded as JCPenney. That is hilarious. There's a sticker here on the top there. It says Kent Warehouse, MA item, and Tim was written on there. So this thing has like a fabric handle. It's pretty cool. It's kind of chunky. I like it. And just like the Panasonic TV that I had on the channel before, This one also had like a clip-on power supply. So basically, it takes DC 12 volts. You can run it in your car or whatever. But it had this clip-on power supply, right? Like a wall wart, basically, that then let you plug into AC. So it was like an easy way to get this thing powered up. Chassis family C01, made in September 1980. And what else is there to say about this? The antenna's on the side here. It's sort of interesting how it's screwed on. But look at that. That's a shame, isn't it? I wonder if I could bend that back. I don't know. I think that happened in shipping, unfortunately. It still works. I mean, you can still raise the bar antenna. It almost looks like this entire antenna assembly can just come off. It's got like 2 screws there. So I suppose if I do end up modding this thing, got an earphone jack, speaker is there on the front. We have the CRT here. It's going to be a black and white TV. We have an 83 channel tuner there. So of course, the old school one. VHF, UHF, on and volume, 5-inch portable TV, AC and DC. As I mentioned, the AC adapter is not there anymore. On the side here, we have height V-linearity, and we have RF AGC and an IF AGC. So automatic gain control for those. And that's really it. This thing is pretty simple. Oh, on the back here, contrast, brightness, vertical hold, and horizontal hold control. So controls are all over the place. But it is definitely a little cute set. Let me go grab the other one just in case you haven't seen that video so we can compare how similar they look. Oh, these are similar, all right. They are so similar. It is not exact though. The Panasonic one, well, very, very similar. So they have the same kind of like hood thing going on here. I think the Panasonic one had like a glass cover or something you could put on there. Not sure about the JCPenney one. The tuner knobs are basically the same. They feel a little different. The volume and power switch is over on the right on the JCPenney one, and it's over here on the left. The Panasonic one has this plastic bar here, you know, so it looks tough. Obviously, this has this actual built-in carry handle, which has the built-in rod antenna. But the interesting thing is, if you look at the side of these things, basically it's the same. It is absolutely the same. There's a little cover here for the earphone jack that's missing, but I could see that that would have been on there originally. There's a little pin there that holds that on. The design of the whole side case is exactly the same. The battery door is exactly the same. Obviously, this antenna here is, yeah, it's a little different, the plastic actually, but it looks like it screws into the same 2 spots right there. So I'm sure I could take that off, transfer it, you know, stuff like that. If we look at the back of the sets, very, very similar. Obviously, I've done a mod here for essentially a composite input. Well, we can see there's a lot of similarities on here with the controls are in exactly the same spot. The molding of the plastic is the same. Oddly enough, this has external and internal VHF and UHF inputs, while this one only has an external rod and external. I guess it's like it's combined UHF and VHF. I have this little pigtail on the back of the TV, and the reason why is because the jack there has a larger center pin than normal. So like a typical like 12 volt power supply wouldn't work. So I actually got rid of the wall wart AC thing and made this little pigtail, which I could just leave on there. But it's obviously exactly the same plug on both sets. Oddly enough, the JCPenney one is like the cheaper of the two because there aren't even any little covers on the screws, just like the knobs stick through, and the horizontal hole doesn't even have anything. But on the Panasonic, it has these really nice like rubber caps here, including on the horizontal hold input. This Panasonic one was made in 1977. Meanwhile, this one, as I said, 1980. The sticker here is very similar, 83593, and this one says 83592. And obviously it's like white writing, black writing on this one, but the same UL sticker in exactly the same spot. This one has a chassis family of T508, and this one does say C01, but you know, I guarantee you when we go inside of this one, it's gonna look exactly the same. And how about on the side here? This side of the set is exactly the same, except for the fact that this has black plastic and it's a little chunky design-wise, but that is just this front cap. That's the only difference. Everything else is the same. The controls are here, the way the plastic looks, all of that. So yeah, how funny is that to have basically the twin of the Panasonic here in a JCPenney version? Gotta say the Panasonic looks better with this black motif on the front plastic that this doesn't have. I suppose I could take the front off and spray paint it black so it would look more like its original sibling here. But you know, hey. All right, why don't we give the JCPenney one a try, and I'll use this little adapter here. Okay, the bench power supply is connected and I just turned it on. No current draw right now. It's at 12 volts, 1 amp, and I'm using it because it's current limited so I can see if anything is going wrong and I can shut it off right away. All right, we're getting 200 milliamps at 12 volts. Do we get a picture at all? Well, we have static, so that's good. Sign. Doesn't appear we have an image though. Could be that the controls on the back are not set right. No, there doesn't appear to be any life on there. Let's see if the oscillator is running by checking my phone. So we're at 3,000, 1,000, up to 30,000 hertz, so it would be over in this section over here. And while there's audio, we're definitely not getting any kind of 15.6 kilohertz. Let me grab the other set. We can compare the two. All right, with the Panasonic here, we'll turn that on. Okay, it's getting about 350. And you know what? I'm not seeing it on here either. We definitely have an image though. It's hard to see. Well, you can see it in the camera. Holding the phone in the right place, there it is, 15.7 kilohertz. So actually, I'm going to try that on the other phone because it seemed like just holding it over here didn't result in anything. I kind of had to hold it right up to the plastic. So we'll try that again. But obviously this set works. I did the composite mod on it. It has a really, really good, sharp, clear picture. Although the fact that this set's giving about 350 milliamps or taking that much, and the other one was only taking 2 something, implies that there's something else wrong with this set here. Alrighty. Okay, it's on already. 225. Let's hit resume on the phone. Oh no, this has got it too. We actually have a peak there at 15.7. One way to know if that's the case, if that's really running, is, oh, I was going to change the horizontal hold control on the back. That's the oscillator. We'll need a tool to do that because it doesn't stick through the back. Kind of rude. Okay, there we go. I have a plastic tool on it. Yep, and that is absolutely, the oscillator is running. Absolutely, positively running. So I know it's not going to be easy to see because of this mail call video, but as I was changing the oscillator, you could see there the frequency was moving up and down. And that's, if I pause that, so that is the oscillator changing in there. But we just have no image whatsoever. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Anyhow, all right, well, this is going to have to be a future repair at some point, but I gotta say, I kind of like it. It's rough and ready. This thing has had a hard life. But it's cool that I have another set to compare to. I have no idea if schematics are available for these Panasonic sets, especially this JCPenney variant, although I'm sure it's identical to the other one. But it is nice to have the working set that I can at least compare to. And like I said, I already know this thing is drawing, what, about like 30% less current than it should. So right off the bat, that tells us that something is the matter. But very neat. This is pretty common. In case you're watching and you're from out of the US, JCPenney is like a department store, kind of on the lower end of things. Montgomery Ward was another big one in the US, sort of similar. They often sold their own line of televisions, electronics, all that stuff. So did Montgomery Ward, so did Sears, so did they all basically. Maybe not like Bloomingdale's and Macy's, not the high-end stores, but these general lower end department stores that just sort of sold everything. They did have their own line of electronics, and they were often very inexpensive. Well, like more inexpensive than the big main brands. So this set, even though it is a Panasonic, probably costs less than the Panasonic. And as you saw, you're getting the same thing. I don't think it was like inferior quality. You just had a little bit of a stylistic difference on it. Not as good looking at, in my opinion, but probably worked just as well. Although this doesn't work anymore, so. Anyhow, all right, cool. Thank you, Tim, for saying that in. That's pretty awesome. This will be a fun little repair at some point in the future. So there we have it for this super mini mail call. There was a lot of unboxing and everything I opened was broken. So there'll be future repairs. So thanks Tim for sending in the Panasonic TV. Thanks Mike for sending in this Sega Master System. And then we have Sean who sent in this Amiga 500 that has the green flash of death, along with the terrible fire accelerator, which will need some troubleshooting. I've gone ahead and put some foam on there, so I'm gonna throw this in an anti-static bag, and those pins should be protected. I connected the accelerator to the CPU relocator. And yes, before you comment, I know the CPU relocator is not on the correct orientation. I just stuck it this way because it's smaller for sitting in a bag. It normally should be flipped around, so yeah, anyways. So that's it, there we go. 3 things, 3 repairs. None of them work. I didn't get any working in this video. This will be for future repairs, so watch this space. I don't know if it'll be main channel or second channel. You never know, because the way I work on stuff around here, I just sort of look around the basement and I'm like, this TV's broken, let me work on that today. And then I make a video about it. So that's how it works down here. So thanks to everyone who sent stuff in for mail call. If you sent stuff in I haven't shown you yet, yeah, there's still a rather lengthy, or a large pile that is, of stuff. Not to mention, there's a bunch of stuff from last year which I haven't shown yet, and I feel terrible about it. I'm always just trying to kind of stay ahead of the big pile. And once I am, then I go back to the old stuff. Yeah, it's not a great strategy, I know, but that's how it works down here. So I apologize again, but yeah, that's a few, 3 more things are open, yay. Anyhow, thanks to the patrons. Names are scrolling up over here. If you want to get access to videos early, you can do that. There's behind the scenes stuff, little Patreon exclusive videos now and then as well. So there's some perks there. And hit subscribe if you haven't already. Comment down below if you want. And that is going to be that. So stay healthy, stay safe, and I will see you next time. Bye.